Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the program today, the merger of two rival newspapers in Las Vegas, and Reno's losing one of its biggest conventions. Joining us today on the program, Brian Greenspun. He's the president and editor of the Las Vegas Sun, and Rob Enriquez from the Reno Sparks Visitor and Convention Authority on what happened with Safari Club International. And coming up on the Power Pundit panel today, Mylan Hawkins, Lisa Foster, and Fred Hillerby. It's all coming up next on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Nevada Newsmakers, brought to you in part by the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the world's largest industrial park, the resort at Red Hawk, and the Peppermill family of casinos.
High-tech companies demand perfect world amenities. They require clean, reliable power, state-of-the-art fiber optic communications, and clean water sources. In a perfect world, companies would have immediate access to rail and interstate freeways. There would be 4-lane expressways that shorten shipping times and provide convenient commute routes for valued employees. Well, the future is now, and it's here. Welcome to the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the largest industrial park in the world, building economic prosperity for Nevadans.
Something spectacular has taken wing not far from Reno or Lake Tahoe, and never far from your mind. An escape of fine dining and legendary golf. Introducing the resort at Red Hawk. And at the center of it all, we've feathered our nest with new villas that have elevated Red Hawk to the status of a premier resort. The resort at Red Hawk, a beautiful new arrival in northern Nevada.
As an employer, did you know you can be held liable for negligent hiring? A background screening by Employer Links can uncover criminal records, like alcohol and drug convictions. It can verify the applicant's education, driving records, and professional licenses. Employer Links can check civil records, registered sex offender records, and Social Security fraud. Hiring the right person shouldn't be a gamble. Call Employer Links. Employer Links, protecting your investment.
I tell you, John, this industry has really changed.
Tell me about it.
You seemed to do pretty well last year. What's your secret?
No secrets. Although I'll tell you something. The smartest thing I did was sign up with Pro Group Management.
Really? Yeah, they do workers' comp, right?
Yeah, their services are great. And get this, they saved me 30%. I've heard they saved others 50%.
That works for me.
Pro Group Management. Finally, workers' comp that works for you.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
Yesterday, it was a surprising announcement to a lot of us in the media that two of Las Vegas's newspapers, the main newspapers in Las Vegas, the Las Vegas Review-Journal and Las Vegas Sun, were going to combine by putting in, instead of having two separate editions, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, they were going to combine into one edition each day. And joining us by phone this morning is Brian Greenspun. He's the president and editor of the Las Vegas Sun. I've been reading your paper for 15 years, Brian, and I was quite stunned to see the news. The rivalry between the two papers, and especially between you and the editor of the Las Vegas Review-Journal, Tom Mitchell, has been amazing to watch over the years. Why did this come about?
Well, why did it come about? That's a kind of a loaded question, Sam. You have to go back 50-some years and understand what this rivalry has been about between the Las Vegas Sun and the Review-Journal in Las Vegas. And it has always, at least in my mind, been about circulation. It's been about reaching as many people as possible in the Las Vegas community with what have been and continue to be very, very different ideas about what is important for the growth of our community. The Review-Journal has one very different kind of philosophy about what's important in life, and the Sun has a different one. And over the years, the circulations have gone up and down, but it's been very, very clear in the last 15, 20 years that the Journal has had a very, very great circulation advantage over the Las Vegas Sun. So when you ask why did it come about, it was very frankly a desire on our part to have the kind of circulation the Review-Journal had so we could reach as many people as they did with our ideas, give people competing ideas about what was good for them or what they should or shouldn't know, and so people could make better judgments about their own lives.
Okay, now you're going to jump from 28,000 copies sold per day up to the Review Journal standard, which is around 165,000, so about a six-fold increase in readership there.
Exactly.
What is going to be is there going to be duplication in the paper? Because right now you have both complete newspapers. How is that going to change?
Well, here's what will probably change, and we haven't even gotten to that, the important issue of what is our newspaper going to look like when this thing starts in September. But clearly, in my mind, there will not be two sports stories of the same game. There will not be two business stories of the same announcement. There will not be two stories about the county commission's vote on X, Y, and Z. What there will be is great coverage of that county commission meeting, what a particular vote meant, why it happened that way. The in-depth analysis that newspapers, for the most part, have gotten away from in the last 20, 30 years because of space considerations and other resource considerations. We are going to be free to cover what we think are the important stories in our community in as in-depth a way as possible, putting great writing and great writers and great analysis together and providing people with information that newspapers, frankly, around the country, save for a few, have not been able to give their readers for a very, very long time. And I look at the New York Times, I look at the Washington Post, I look at the LA Times, the papers who commit 5, 6, 7 times the number of reporters to a particular story than any other newspaper is able to, just because of the resources.
Do you think that the circulation problem was merely the fact that it was an afternoon paper?
I think there were a lot of factors. When this thing started in 1990, the Joint Operating Agreement, the Review Journal had probably twice our circulation. And we went to the afternoon. We were a morning paper. We went to the afternoon, and if you look at afternoon papers around the entire country, almost all of them are either dying or dead, and either being held on by JOAs or for some other reason they're being held on. You've got traffic patterns, you've got reading patterns, you've got the crush of daily life that just has made afternoon newspapers practically a relic of the past. And so we had that, together with the fact that we did not control our circulation over these last 15 years. That was done by the Review Journal. And so, you can have arguments there, but that's history. We just did not fare as well, and Las Vegas continued to grow, and the morning paper grew. We didn't.
How much do you think the Internet has affected you? Because obviously a lot of people, especially here in Northern Nevada, read the paper online.
There's no question that the greatest challenge that I see for newspapers going forward is what to do with this next generation that frankly gets its news either on television, on the Internet, or whatever else is coming. And the challenge will be how to get those people involved in a newspaper so that they will also use newspapers as a source for information. And that'll be our challenge. We've got an opportunity now, I think, to be the first new newspaper in the 21st century to create from scratch what it's going to look like, what it's going to feel like, what it's going to read like. And part of our challenge is to find a way to reach those young people. But clearly, the Internet has an impact.
Now, are you going to maintain your capital staff? I mean, are you going to maintain the number of reporters you currently have for this expanded coverage?
The capital staff?
Yes.
I don't know what that...
Carson City?
Oh, in Carson City? I'm pretty sure we will. I mean, a vital part of what goes on in Nevada is what goes on at that legislature and what goes on in the Capitol. I don't expect that we are going to reduce the total coverage of our newspaper. What's being reduced, frankly, is the total number of pages we get to produce on a daily basis. But the kind and quality of coverage is not going to change. In fact, it'll probably be enhanced.
Well, I look forward over the coming months to seeing the combination here of the Liberal Sun and the ultra-conservative Las Vegas Review-Journal. I hope the editorial battles continue.
We're very moderate Sun.
Okay, I'll go with that.
Progressive Sun.
Listen, thanks very much for being here, Brian. We welcome you back to come and we'll talk politics next time, all right?
All right, Tim.
All right, thank you very much. Brian Greenspan of the Las Vegas Sun, soon to be combined with the Las Vegas Review-Journal. We'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers after this.
For a videotape copy of any Nevada Newsmakers program, call 775-857-2244. The tapes are $20 each, including shipping.
My family started this business 27 years ago. We work hard to serve our customers and our community.
But it's getting harder and harder to keep the doors open.
For example, our workers' comp is going through the roof.
Isn't anyone on my side anymore?
The Retail Association of Nevada is. If you're a small business owner, we can cut your workers' comp by up to 50%, lobby for your interests, and keep you informed. Put us to work today.
Many of the materials we rely on every day come from the ground, and modern mining technology brings them to us cleaner and safer than ever before. To learn more about America's natural resources, visit nma.org, the National Mining Association.
South Reno's hotspot for food, fun, and friends is the Tamarack Junction. Enjoy great food 24 hours a day in the Dining Car Restaurant. For a quick bite and the best sandwiches in town, it's the Whistle Stop Deli. And for the best appetizers and menu selections and a large variety of cocktails, beers, and martinis, it's Sully's Sports Bar, Grill, and Nightclub. The Tamarack Junction is your junction for fun. South Virginia and Amati Ranch Parkway.
Your best value in sight is here for you to see. From frames to lenses to eye exams, you're covered A to Z. Davis Optical, your best value in sight.
Davis Optical Centers, with 2 locations in Reno and Sparks.
Davis Optical, your best value in sight.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad.
And we're joined by Rob Enriquez, who is the Executive Director of Meeting and Convention Sales at the Reno Sparks Visitors and Convention Authority. Pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
We found out yesterday that Safari Club International, which is the biggest single convention that comes to Reno, it comes usually in January, I believe, and is worth about, what, $10 million a year in business for Reno?
Actually closer to probably $20 million.
To $20 million, okay. It's
Correct.
even more significant. It's been holding its conventions for many years here annually, but it's going to leave in 2008 to go to New Orleans. Why did they decide to go to New Orleans instead of staying with Reno?
Well, and I will say currently they're in negotiations with New Orleans. It is a pretty common practice within the industry of groups of this size that have membership from throughout the country to go through a rotation process. The group was looking for a change in venue. In addition to that, one of the variables that we're facing is the group outgrowing our building. They've gone through an aggressive marketing campaign in an effort to grow their membership. And in doing so, obviously, the number of exhibitors, the number of attendees will grow, therefore requiring a larger building.
So despite the expansion of the convention center just a couple of years ago, they've already outgrown it.
Correct. They've maxed out the building and would definitely be requiring additional space with their current configuration of their show.
Okay, now what would be the possibility of putting in some kind of temporary expansion?
Well, one thing that I think is the positive spin to look at this with is the fact that near the end of the month we'll be meeting with representatives from Safari Club International to discuss possible options as to how we can approach keeping the group here. We have been in very positive discussions talking about 2 years, being 9 and 10, to keep the group here in Reno, Nevada.
Okay, and that would include some kind of expansion of the facility, even on a temporary basis?
You know, Sam, it could either include an expansion, it could include a reconfiguration of how their exhibits are laid out. We're going to sit down and we're going to discuss and see what is definitely the more positive direction to take as far as how we can approach this. It's definitely our desire to keep the group here. We've had very positive response from exhibitors, which I myself have walked the show floor and had exhibitors say how much they love this destination, how much they enjoy doing business here. So we will make every effort to make sure that the business is kept here.
And very high-profile guest speakers always come out for this thing. People like General Schwarzkopf and President Bush, #1, have been out here on a regular basis to attend this convention.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that'll continue. I think Safari Club, as I mentioned earlier, continues to grow its membership. and is a very well-established group throughout the country. So I think we'll continue to see that sort of representation here.
My first visitation with President Ford was at a Safari Club meeting here in Reno when I first started out in TV.
Excellent.
Let's talk about some of the successes that the Reno Convention Authority has had. The Downtown Event Center appears to be taking off.
Absolutely. One very positive thing that we're seeing is a lot of the special events that we're looking at. And we're looking to do anywhere from 1 to 2 top name performers per month. That is our goal. That is the direction we're focused on. The exciting thing about that is what we're seeing with ticket sales is a very high percentage of those people are coming from over the hill. So that is a very positive thing for us. The impact that we have on just additional revenue that it might bring, ancillary revenue, whether it be restaurants, whether it be room night stays, and that is a very positive thing. We're going to continue moving in that direction, looking for some of these concerts to fill our year. The other thing is we're going to continue to move strongly on meetings, conventions, and trade shows. We've done everything from sporting events there to trade shows, different events that we might have, whether it be a billiards event. And that's going to also continue to be the direction that we move in.
Okay, now tell me about this volleyball tournament.
The volleyball tournament is a very positive group for this destination.
How many people?
That group brings upwards of 40,000 total room nights to this destination. And the interesting thing, I had a conversation with representatives from volleyball, and just kind of going throughout the year and watching that, it impacts the entire city. We're having lunch at area restaurants, and the comments that we had from managers was, we can't wait for them to come back. We've been busy every day. So I think, and that is another one that is close to $19–20 million in economic impact to the destination. We are currently in negotiations to keep them here for another 3 years. Obviously, we want to make sure that we secure their space with the aggressive effort that we're making to bring conventions to the destination. We want to ensure that a group like this that we've established as a community event, an event that the community supports, stays here, and we make sure that we keep them happy throughout their time in Reno.
Last quick question here. The amount of convention space in Las Vegas continues to increase at a rapid rate. The whole idea for MGM Mirage to purchase Mandalay Bay was to get that convention center that they have that's been so successful. How much competition is Las Vegas for you?
We definitely compete with Las Vegas on various types of business. I think one thing that we maintain when we're talking to clients is Reno Tahoe, America's Adventure Place, will always, and the direction that we move in is we've got a uniqueness about our destination. And we don't want to be a Las Vegas. We want to be Reno Tahoe. And to us, that is the message that we send. I worked in Vegas for a period of time. Great place for that specific type of event to go. But in our eyes, we think we have a very unique destination here. And rather than trying to go up against a destination such as Las Vegas and say that we are just like them, we like to emphasize the uniqueness of our destination. And I think that's a very positive direction to take.
And we appreciate you being here, Rob Enriquez.
Absolutely.
We'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers with the Pundits after this.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
Since its creation more than a decade ago, the Southern Nevada Water Authority has focused on 3 goals: preserving water quality, improving water conservation in Southern Nevada, and meeting the community's current and future water needs. Through thoughtful planning, responsible management, and collaboration, it's succeeding. As we move into the 21st century, the authority continues to embrace sustainable water development and efficient water use. That's our promise to Nevada.
Something spectacular has taken wing not far from Reno or Lake Tahoe, and never far from your mind. An escape of fine dining and legendary golf. Introducing the resort at Red Hawk. And at the center of it all, we've feathered our nest with new villas that have elevated Red Hawk to the status of a premier resort. The Resort at Red Hawk, a beautiful new arrival in northern Nevada.
So, who do you use for workers' comp?
Pro Group Management.
Ah, I've heard some good things about them.
Oh, you bet. Employee background checks, safety training, claim seminars. Oh, and here's the great part. If you have an issue, they work for you, not against you.
Sounds perfect. And expensive.
Well, that's the best part. They saved me 30%. I've heard they've saved others 50%.
Works for me. Pro Group Management. Finally, workers' comp that works for you.
As an employer, did you know you can be held liable for negligent hiring? A background screening by employer links can uncover criminal records, like alcohol and drug convictions. It can verify the applicant's education, driving records, and professional licenses. Employer links can check civil records, registered sex offender records, and social security fraud. Hiring the right person shouldn't be a gamble. Call Employer Links. Employer Links, protecting your investment.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad.
Just wanted to mention one more bit of news from Rob Enriquez. He says that the RCVA is close to, at least tentatively, booking 500,000 room nights between 2006 and 2016. That's a pretty substantial number, to say the least. Now time for our Power Pundit panel, and we're joined today by Mylan Hawkins, who is Vice President of Interface Computer Associates, Fred Hillerby, lawyer and lobbyist, and Lisa Foster, Deputy Chief of Staff to Governor Guinn. Welcome to all of you. I was talking to some regents over the past couple of days, and none of them seemed very happy about the idea of going on the ballot to change the composition of the board and for them to be appointed rather than elected. What's your thoughts on this, Mylan?
Well, you know, I have thoughts about this in terms of it working at other universities very well to have appointed regents. And typically they're appointed for a particular period of time, usually by the governor. And it works well for other university systems. So I can understand where they'd maybe like to stay there forever, but typically regents will serve maybe 6 to 12 years. It's not lifetime, and it gives the opportunity to bring new people and new ideas on board. So I wouldn't object to it personally.
Fred?
I think I share Mylan's view. I think it's probably time for a change in the process. I'm always concerned about certain public officials being elected. I mean, obviously there are a lot, but when it gets to the Board of Regents, it seems to me that you're looking for various areas of expertise that you can bring with an appointment process that may not be there when you find out who has the most money to run for office.
It always strikes me as a very interesting office that it doesn't pay anything, and yet people are prepared to spend very large amounts of money to be elected, Lisa.
Right. I think when you politicize higher education, it can just lead to some of the bickering and debates that we have seen go on. And so I think it'll be interesting to see what the general public thinks of this option.
The governor must have been very pleased with the amount of money that went to funding higher education.
He was. We put a lot in the budget for higher education, and then the legislature put more in. They're going to have some important building projects, new classrooms. DRI is going to get some new programs. We have a lot going into higher education this year, and I think it's going to say a lot for our state, for economic development purposes, and just for the benefit of all our kids graduating using the Millennium Scholarship, for instance.
Well, there was an article in the Review Journal yesterday about the university system raising the pay for Carol Harder, the head of UNLV, and her pay is now going to exceed the pay of John Lilly at UNR, and it's going to be around $230,000 a year as a base, which is an increase of over $10,000. But I also noticed in the story that Ms. Harder could get up to $250,000 bonus, $250,000 bonus for reaching fundraising goals. I've said on this program before, shouldn't we change the name of presidents from presidents to salespeople? Because isn't that really, Fred, what they do?
Well, it's certainly a part of what they do, and an important part, because fundraising is very critical to higher education. Lisa talked about the success that higher education had in terms of the money that the legislature appropriated. However, it's still not enough, and so the fundraising becomes very important, and especially its importance is shown like in 2003 when we didn't have the excess revenues, and it was much more difficult to fund education to the degree that a lot of people would want to do that. So that's part of the job, and so whether it's the marketing skills that come along with the management skills and their education skills, it seems like it makes the whole package.
You know, I'm much more comfortable with the idea of a commission on revenue drawn in than perhaps the fact that we keep leapfrogging in terms of these salaries. We bring a new person in, and suddenly the next everybody else has to get a raise to match it.
Mm-hmm. typically happens in the public sector, but part of it is Nevada has grown so fast. Every time they go to hire someone new, whether it's in that position, city manager, county manager, wherever, they're dealing with a population and issues that are so much bigger than their predecessor was dealing with. So it in some ways makes sense that the next person would make more money.
And I think also one has to look at the fact that very, very good and talented people are frequently pulled out of the public sector into, the private business world because the salaries are so much better usually there. So in order to keep good people, you need to pay people for their ability to do for you.
Is that really true these days? I mean, I look at the salaries of leading people in government and I say, boy, I'd like to make that.
Well, yes, but when you are developing a university and you're looking at developing millions and millions of dollars in structure, infrastructure, and an individual that can do that, a good development director, believe me, is worth every penny you pay them.
Well, I think the top management people in government don't get paid enough, frankly. I mean, we're finally going to give the governor a raise. He's made $110,000 a year. This particular governor, that's not an issue for him, but it's the top management job. He had to get together with his team to prepare a $6 billion budget and all of that. So that isn't very much money. And come on, Sam, we know you make more than any of those people do.
Well, you are probably looking at some under the checkbook other than mine. I guess really what's come about, though, it seems, is that there is very little difference these days between the public and the private sector, except in the area of where certain entrepreneurs can make vastly much more money than the general population. But if you're in the highest levels of business or the highest levels of government, I think the salaries are getting pretty comparable these days.
Well, they have to be, I think, Sam, in order to keep people in those positions, because otherwise, if you're a top flight person and Hewlett Packard wants you, they're going to be able to pay for you. So to keep you in that position of working for the people of any state, you need to be competitive.
We will continue this debate. We'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers after this.
Nevada Newsmakers, brought to you in part by the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the world's largest industrial park, the resort at Red Hawk, and the Peppermill family of casinos.
Here at the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, water resources come from fresh, clean groundwater, approved by state permits. The water is pumped from wells to million-gallon storage tanks and then distributed to TRI companies. Another amenity is our investment in a state-of-the-art wastewater treatment plant. This disposal system converts waste to clean water for industrial applications. Welcome to the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the largest industrial park in the world, building economic prosperity for Nevada.
As always, we love to get your emails at newsmakers@kvbc.com and newsmakers@krnb.com. Among the guests next week, Bob Cashell, George Togliatti, Donna Coleman, and Lisa Foster. We'll see you next week.